focusing more on the quality of performance for the season or time that you are in is more important than focusing on the goal. Hear me out. If I put effort into improving the quality of my performance, then I am less likely to have negative self-talk than comparing the quality of my performance to someone else's journey who is not my circumstance and is not experiencing the things that I'm experiencing. Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of the Psalms Inspires podcast. I'm glad that you're here with us today, and today we'll be talking about a topic that is dear to my heart. I think it's really important for people who are trying to launch into achieving their goals, pushing towards their destiny or purpose, achieving their business ideas, or even starting their own organizations. And today we'll be talking about the power of self-talk, the internal dialogue that is within you that really affects how you perceive and even approach things. Happy New Year and welcome to 2024. Today is January the 3rd, and we have about 362 days to go. We still have 11 months and several days for you to achieve the things and the dreams that you have for this year and the things that will help you get to your next destination. So stick around and hang on. We have a lot to unpack and a lot to cover. I hope that this conversation will be helpful and it will edify you as you're thinking about your goals and aspirations. As we get started, as I said, we'll be talking about the power of self-talk, the power of the internal dialogue that you have with yourself. I'll start off with asking you a question. What kind of talk do you tell yourself? What language do you speak yourselves in? Really what I'm asking is, what kind of conversations happen inside of you day to day as you're going about your business or as you're going about your life? It's important to note that there is so much power associated with self-talk. And today we'll be looking at some scientific data, but we'll also be looking at it from a spiritual standpoint and asking ourselves, what sort of self-talk are we supposed to be having? What environment is supposed to be operating within ourselves that is going to motivate us and push us towards the goals and aspirations that we want to achieve? And as we get started here, maybe the first thing that we need to do is define what self-talk is and really unpack it in a way where it helps us build the perspective and awareness. And I looked at several definitions of self-talk. The one that I landed on, and I'm going to read it here, is one that said that self-talk is the ongoing internal dialogue we have with ourselves, significantly impacting our mental health and behavior. There is two types of self-talk: positive self-talk, which can improve self-esteem, stress management, and overall well-being, while negative self-talk can decrease confidence and hinder personal growth. It's important to not rush through that definition and take time to unpack some of the keywords that have been mentioned here, like for example, that self-talk is the ongoing internal dialogue. So it doesn't stop. This is like communication that is going on and on and on. Right now, as you're listening to me, there is something that from your inside you're telling yourself. As you are driving, there is a conversation that you're telling yourself. When you're in a class, learning or reading, there's an internal conversation that takes place. Or even when you're watching TV or listening to a friend talk to you. So this ongoing internal dialogue happens all the time. You know, I was actually thinking about it and thinking, even when I'm sleeping, there's an internal dialogue that speaks to me through my dreams and through the experiences that I have at night. So self-talk is an ongoing process that is happening all the time. And this definition already gives us two types of self-talk: positive self-talk and negative self-talk. It associates positive self-talk with an improved self-esteem, stress management, and overall well-being. So that's a good thing. You want to be, you want to do well from your mental standpoint. For you to be able to achieve your goals and aspirations, you need to be leveled up mentally so that you are able to make those critical decisions and be able to push yourself forward. But the definition also tells us about negative self-talk, and it says here that it can decrease confidence and even hinder personal growth. That's to say that self-talk is powerful enough that it can affect your self-esteem, and that decreases your confidence, your self-confidence, and that hinders your personal growth. So I think those are huge words that are being used to define self-talk. And the other interesting part about that definition is that self-talk has a language. And I asked myself, personally, I speak 3 languages. So I asked myself, what language do I speak to myself in? When I'm having my thoughts, what language do I speak to myself in? Because it really impacts how you see the world or even how you rationalize things. So moving on from the definition, I was looking out for research that could help shed some more insight in terms of what has already been documented or put out there regarding self-talk and why is it an important topic. I think it's a really important topic because anything that affects your mental capacity and your overall well-being, anything that can push you towards stress, depression, anything that can heighten your anxiety is a really important topic to you as a vision bearer, as an entrepreneur, or even as a goal setter. If you don't put enough effort in understanding your internal dialogue and understanding how you perceive things and how your uptake of information and how you process it, and then that affects your output. It affects what you give out in your job, in your career, in your office, the kind of environment that you create for others, even in your home. It really comes from inside, right? It comes from what we are meditating or what we're thinking about and how we are seeing it. It affects how things come out, the output that you give. So self-talk is really important. It's quite a good topic for us to think about, especially going into this year, 2024. What are you telling yourself? What conversations are happening in your head? Who are you fighting? What are the giants that are in there? Who is influencing you? Who is speaking to you and telling you you can do it? You cannot do it. Where are you basing that information from? Where are you getting the information regarding the things that you plan to do? So when I looked at the research, I actually found not so much research on self-talk. I mean, there is enough research out there, enough to show that thoughts have been put in place and strategies have been put in place. Data has been collected to help us get an insight into this topic. But a lot of the research that I found had a lot of discrepancy, let me call it that, because it didn't necessarily quantify what self-talk or self-thoughts were. What I mean by that is it's hard for you to quantify, the kind of thoughts someone is having on the inside. There's a lot of variables in that. So the research that I found, though, did point in several directions. Number one, I'll give it out right now. One research by the National Science Foundation mentioned that a human being in a day has about 6,200 thoughts to 80,000 thoughts in a single day. 6,200 to 80,000, that's a huge range, right? So this research by the National Science Foundation in the United States was perpetuating to say that there are 80,000 thoughts that go through a single day. And what they found was that 80% of those thoughts are repetitive, and here's the word, are negative thoughts. Can you just imagine that? That 60,000 thoughts out of back again and again and again until they form a pattern inside of us. Another research that was done in the UK was done on 50 athletes. And the reason why they decided to do this research on athletes is because athletes are some, for sure are, very competitive. Consider people who are running for like 100 meters. they are out there in the field, ready to run. They can see the people who they're competing with. They can see their abilities, maybe even when they do like those pre-heat stage before they get to the final race. And athletes have a lot of self-talk or a lot of thoughts that are going on inside of them before they get to to the field and to the track and start running. And the research was done on 50 athletes, and they realized that the athletes were having a lot of thoughts. They were actually speaking to themselves. Let me say it that way. And as they were speaking to themselves, the researchers were interested to know what kind of thoughts, what were they telling themselves during that time. And this research was interesting because they found that there were two sorts of types or groups of people. There were people who anxiety was causing them to have positive thoughts, meaning the anxiety that they were getting was pushing or motivating them to feel like they can achieve this. But also there were athletes who got so much anxiety out of seeing the people they were competing with, and they, even though they could have performed better, did not perform better. So that's to say that there was so much power in terms of what they were telling themselves and how they were seeing their circumstance that it affected their performance. But that to me was not even the most intriguing part of that research. And I'll put this citation in the description for you guys to read for yourselves this research. But what was intriguing to me more from this research is that they found that the athletes who didn't necessarily focus on their competitors, but their self-talk was more pegged on the quality of their performance. What I mean by that is they weren't trying to compare themselves. They weren't trying to say, hey, I think I can run better than him, or I think I want to become number 1 or number 2 or number 3, or want to get the gold, silver. What they were thinking about during that time is their capacity to improve based on their previous performance. So they had an expectation, but they placed the right expectation on themselves. So that's to say, even if they didn't necessarily win, but they ran within the time that they had expected to run for themselves, those athletes were more happy and did not have negative self-talk. Unlike those ones who they placed an unrealistic expectation and found themselves not perform in accordance to that. And so they were really frustrated and they lost hope. They felt really affected. That to me stood out so much, because what basically that told me, I actually summarized it here, is that focusing more on the quality of performance for the season or time that you are in is more important than focusing on the goal. Hear me out. If I put effort into improving the quality of my performance, then I am less likely to have negative self-talk than comparing the quality of my performance to someone else's journey who is not my circumstance and is not experiencing the things that I'm experiencing. And that is so true, because in this day and age where we have so much access to the Internet of Things, and you're comparing yourself with so many people out there. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm comparing myself with someone in China or someone in Mexico or someone in Argentina, and seeing how they are lifting weights or they have these abs or they run. And that person is not in my circumstance. We are not in the same geographical location. We are not the same people. We are not related. And I feel like I'm not achieving the goals for my life quick enough like that individual. I will find myself inclined towards a negative internal dialogue than someone who is really not comparing themselves. They are more interested in the quality of their performance, unlike just the goal. So if I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking to myself, I promised myself to do 40 minutes walking today. I'm gonna do that and maybe even add 5 minutes more just to make sure that I am active and I am maintaining that consistency in terms of my exercise routine. Or I'm recording this video, for example, and go and tell yourself that I'm gonna record my video, I'm gonna put in the work, and I'll look at it again and review what I recorded. And even if I get 10 people to like it or watch it, I'll use that data to know how I can keep improving in my performance and what I need to do in order to improve the quality of my production. Those kind of individuals end up having a positive self-talk than people who are comparing themselves constantly, especially in regarding the attainment of their goal. So that there gives us one insight in terms of how does negative self-talk start developing within us. And that comes from you comparing your goals with someone else and not necessarily with your current circumstance or your current situation. We're going to move on to the types of negative self-talk that have been illustrated by literature. And I found 4. There's personalizing, which means taking blame for all problems, even when when you're not fully responsible. Filtering, which is ignoring positives and focusing only on negatives. Catastrophizing, which is overemphasizing negative events and expecting the worst outcomes. And then polarizing, which is viewing things as good or bad and no in between. And let's discuss together what some of these definitions mean and look for examples. So personalizing, for example, where you take blame for all things, even the ones that you're not the one who is responsible for. And I found out that, an example of this would be maybe your neighbor left out the trash at night and there was a strong wind and the trash was blown all over the street, and you see that it has gone to your neighbors, and when you're trying to go out there and discuss this situation, that trash should not have been left there. You're taking blame for that. You're not even the one who caused that. Maybe that's not the best example, but that you start taking blame for other people's responsibility that are not even your own. And that personalizing, if you are criticized and someone comes and says this neighborhood is not clean, there is so much going on in terms of litter, there's so much trash here, and you find yourself wanting to justify, and you take that, you personalize that conversation and take it within yourself and feel like this person is criticizing you personally, yet they're criticizing the activity that was done in terms of that the trash was left out by someone else and now it's blown all over the street. But now you've picked like that person is criticizing you and you want to take the blame for that, and you have this internal dialogue that says you're not enough, that tells you that you cannot measure up, or tells you that you are the only one who makes mistakes, and there's all this negative self-talk that develops in you. That is one type of self-talk, negative self-talk, that is. The other one would be filtering, which is ignoring positives and focusing only on negatives. And this is a dangerous one because, when you think about life gives us good things and it also gives us some challenging things. There's good moments and there's challenging moments. But when you only have an eye for negative moments and don't have a gratitude list like what we covered last time, never really write down and say, this is what I'm thankful for in terms of what I have achieved in 2023. I'm still alive. That is a great achievement by itself. You never pick any positive. All you do, I know you guys have friends like that. I know some people who are like that. They only give you negative vibes and never give you positive vibes. That's another kind of negative self-talk that we need to avoid. Catastrophizing, overemphasizing negative events and expecting the worst outcomes is when, you look at a situation happening to you and you think the worst. And I think the reason why people do that is so that they can avoid being disappointed. So they would rather, think the worst and not be disappointed than think the best and be disappointed. So that's another way that negative self-talk builds within us, is catastrophizing, that you overemphasize the negative things that are happening. You don't take it that it's life, and sometimes you'll have those moments. You always catastrophize and see that this is only happening to you and bad things will happen and this is gonna happen and this is gonna happen. And the internal dialogue there is completely messed up. And then the other one, polarizing, which is viewing things as only good or bad and no in between, is even like when you are thinking of a person, maybe you hear their story and you're only thinking the bad out of them, right? And not thinking that they may even have some strengths, or they may have some things that are good about them. So you find yourself you are polarizing. You're moving either to the good or to the bad. And that's one way that negative self-talk develops within us, because even that's how you see yourself. That's how you see yourself. You see yourself as a good person or a bad person. So you evaluate your life and you start thinking, am I a good person or am I a bad person? So again, that causes you to, and no in between, that causes you to have negative self-talk develop within you. So with all this conversation, let's not deviate from the thought that we saw in the research that says that negative self-talk, 80% of our thoughts is repetitive and negative. 80%, guys. That's a really important point to think about. And why I bring that up is because, so we are going to be looking at the impact of self-talk on self-esteem. And when you think about 80% of your thoughts being repetitive and negative, you can imagine the attack on your self-esteem. And why I bring this up is because, we are building visions and goals and aspirations and businesses. But this person that is building these amazing ideas that are going to solve society's problems and employ people and create job opportunities for their neighborhoods and, design socially productive programs, if they don't believe in themselves, how are we going to achieve that goal? How are you going to achieve that opportunity of you impacting this world and changing it for the good? Because that's the kind of power that is within you, especially when your identity is at question. I personally have faced this where I found myself doubting my abilities, even when I've delivered or have a track record of things that I have achieved. You find yourself now questioning yourself, questioning your abilities and questioning whether you can do this or you cannot do this. And that's because of that door, that gate that you've opened of negative self-talk to come inside of you and dictate those repetitive negative thoughts that come inside of you, and they are telling you you are not good enough, you don't measure up, you still need to get this or get that so that you can be able to achieve the kind of greatness that you want to achieve. We have to learn how to stop that. We have to learn that this is an attack on our self-identity, an attack on our purpose, an attack on our destiny that is happening, and is not just going to affect you, it's going to affect all those other people who are connected with you in terms of your dreams, in terms of your businesses and your abilities and the things that you want to achieve. All right, so we talked about the impact on self-talk on mental health, that persistent negative self-talk can significantly impact your mental well-being. And you may not consider yourself, like mentally challenged in terms of like if you don't consider yourself like you have a poor mental health. But if you find yourself with all these repetitive negative talks, I promise you need to do something about it. Otherwise, stress, depression, anxiety will be knocking at your door and will be things that you'll start to deal with. And negative self-talk can also lead to stress. We know that there is a relationship that has been documented between stress and immunity. And then it also disrupts your sleep. Again, when these things happen, they don't just affect your mental wellness, they affect even your physical body and even your productivity. And how are you going to achieve great goals if you're not productive? How will you achieve, how will you come up with these solutions that are going to impact and affect the society if you are not having that productivity, Because when you open that door of negative self-talk to keep talking within you, I can assure you that you won't see the need to, come up with solutions or build these great ideas. And negative self-talk impairs our decision-making abilities, hinder our overall well-being. It makes it harder to deal with chronic pain and trauma. So you don't even have the ability to now overcome those childhood traumas that sometimes really hold us back away from our destiny. And then negative self-talk again affects our ability to tackle and attack a goal. And that's important. We're talking about this in January because you have 11 months and how many days? 20 something days. You have enough days, but you may end up wasting half of this year in repetitive negative talks within yourself. Repetitive negative internal dialogue within yourself. So we need to do something early enough in this quarter so that you produce your next video, produce your next music, write your next book, open that business, come up with these solutions, and by the end of the year, we'll look back in this community and be like, man, there's so much that has been achieved. I'm glad I got the tools that I needed to help me overcome my own undoing, my own negative self-talk happening within me. So what is the connection between self-talk and goals? Negative self-talk can hinder goal achievement by reducing one's ability to recognize opportunities. As I said, remember those types of negative self-talk: polarizing, catastrophizing, filtering, and now you look at opportunities, but you look at them from one side, either good or bad, and you lean on the bad side and never go for that opportunity, or you catastrophize it. I know of a friend who I know of a friend who, when they think about an opportunity, they only think about the risk. And it's good to think about the risk, but there is also an opportunity. You think about investment and you analyze an investment based on the risk, but things and goals, ideas require faith in order to be achieved. You need faith and hope in order to do those things that you want to do. And so don't just think about the risk and just look at things from a downward trend. Look at them from an upward trend and just think about them. Be like, hey, this can actually be achieved. And I know that a lot of people don't like doing that because they feel like they don't want to be disappointed even by their ideas. But without trying, without experimenting, how will you ever know that this can work or not? And the only thing you can do is fail, right? And that is a learning opportunity for you to know where to improve. So there's a connection between self-talk and goals, in that a negative self-talk attitude will hinder you from realizing your opportunities. And then, as we said here, it decreases your confidence, leading to a lowered belief in one's ability to achieve goals. And then it can cause a lack of motivation and a heightened fear of failure. And motivation is so important for entrepreneurs, for vision bearers. You need to be self-motivated, right? Self-motivation helps you overcome the friction of starting, of the startup phase of your idea, of your venture. So when you have negative self-talk, it kills your motivation. The friction increases. You don't even end up doing that thing that you want to do. And then when we look at the emotional distress that comes with negative self-talk, it impacts your overall well-being and focus on goals. And you end up now becoming a person who, doesn't even see the need to plan things, doesn't even feel the need to do things. You ask yourself, how did I become this person? I thought I was encouraged, I was motivated enough to pursue my dreams and my goals, but now you're finding yourself not achieving or even wanting to achieve them. But the converse is also true. Positive self-talk helps you in seeing opportunities. Positive self-talk, gives you an opportunity to overcome that fear of failure and be motivated and be energetic. And you know what energy does? It attracts. It pulls people in. Positive vibes, the only thing that they do is pull people in. They're like, man, that guy, I tell you, I like hanging out with him because he helps, he makes me feel the experience that I get with this person is this and that. So that's really important to think about, that instead of having negative self-talk, you need to be having positive self-talk. And we'll be talking about how to develop that positive attitude. When I thought about the Bible and the connection between negative thoughts in the Bible. The verse that came to me is Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 to 9. The Bible says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is anything excellent, anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. This directly is speaking to the power of your thoughts, that have a positive thought process, internal dialogue. Don't have a negative one. A negative one will keep you away from your destiny. So this one, straight from the Bible, is really attacking the topic of the day, negative self-talk, and saying replace that with positive thoughts, like whatever is honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, and excellent. So how do you, I hope I've convinced you enough, but how do you develop positive thoughts? How do you develop a positive internal dialogue within yourself? And I would have to say this is a practice that I'm doing as well, something that I am trying the best that I can to continue developing within myself as well, so that I'm not just preaching water and I'm taking wine. So it's I know that from my past I've struggled with negative thoughts across my career, or even across my life, in different seasons and stages, and found myself sometimes talk myself out of a venture, talk myself out from an opportunity, talk yourself out from a relationship that was supposed to open up doors and be the destiny connector. And I made it a point within myself that I want to research and I want to find practical ways that others have found out there that help them overcome negative thoughts, so that in 2024 the only thoughts that you're having within you are winning thoughts. So these are strategies that I've found other people use. Take them with a pinch of salt and practice them for yourself. See what works for you, and leave a comment in this video, on this podcast, in terms of what works for you, and hopefully that will help someone within our community so that they can feel motivated enough to want to get to their next destination. By the way, just to remind you, if you like the content of this, please like it, subscribe, and consider to share it with someone so that they can also benefit. So strategy number 1 is be aware of negative self-talk. Build that awareness. No, these thoughts I'm having, where are they coming from? What's the source of these thoughts? Why am I thinking the way I'm thinking? So question yourself. Don't just question others. Question yourself. Question your thoughts. Be like, why am I in this state of mind? Why am I having these repetitive negative thoughts as at now? So build that awareness. You can even see triggers that cause you to get to such a time. Like, what is causing you to feel think a certain way? One of my triggers that I was having was hunger. Interesting enough, right? Whenever I'm hungry, I have negative self-talk. So the remedy for that is make sure you're not hungry. So carry a snack with you, or when I didn't have clarity, when I felt like I don't understand this enough. And so what I decided to be doing is writing down my thoughts. So that I can seek that clarity and postpone discussions in my head. Be like, hey, I need to stop this. I'll come back to it later. I don't have to solve this right now. Let's sleep on it. That's another strategy, So build that awareness of, why am I having these self-talks and what are my triggers that are happening right now? And be mindful when they're happening. And then the second one is what I was saying. You challenge those negative thoughts. Be like, present to me the evidence. What is the data? If you are driving and you're thinking, oh man, I'm about to have a wreck, on this road, ask yourself, where did that come from? Why did I just have that thought? And challenge your thoughts. Some thoughts come and they are helpful, but some other thoughts come and they're just pulling us back. The other thing is focus on blessings and positive things. And here is where I was saying, build a gratitude a journal, a gratitude list that you can be looking back on and being like, man, I am so thankful for all that God has allowed me to achieve. And you can look at your list, day in, day out and be like, man, wow, look at this. Look at what God has allowed you to do. Look at all the things that you've achieved. And so as we're starting the year, start off this year right with a gratitude list. Say, man, today is day 3 of January. Just write down and say, this is what has already happened in my life so far, good things, the things that are happening, so that you have those positive vibes within you. And when you need to remind yourself, you post it everywhere. Use the canvases in your house, the walls, post those positive affirmations and, that gratitude list somewhere. Treat yourself with kindness. I thought this one was interesting because it's something that, I'm practicing myself. Treat yourself with kindness. And what I understood by this, I'll read it to you what it says. It's important to be kind to yourself and acknowledge that it's okay not to be perfect. Reassure yourself that you're only human and that mistakes can be valuable lessons. So whenever you make a mistake, don't just polarize and think you're the worst person to ever exist. There's never been any other bad than you. Don't just think of yourself like that. Think of yourself that you're only human. You're born to make mistakes. Mistakes happen. And so be kind to yourself. When you don't deliver on your goals as accurately as you wanted to deliver on them, think to yourself, you're only human. There's only so much that you can do. If you need to take a break, take a break. Otherwise, you continue putting that pressure on yourself, all you will do is build negative self-talk. Another strategy that I saw here is use that 3-to-1 ratio, where you have, for every 3 positive thoughts, you have 1 negative thought. So if 1 negative thought develops in you, you write or text 3 positive thoughts that will counteract that 1 negative thought. So that's a 3-to-1 ratio. So wake up and be like, I know I can't do this. I can't succeed on YouTube. Maybe that's a thought that I have inside of myself, and say, no, I can record. I have this phone, I can go ahead and record. I'll reach 10 people and that's fine. These 10 people will be empowered and they'll feel like they're getting to their next destination. So you're challenging that 1 negative thought with 3 positive thoughts. And finally, surround yourself with positivity. So you are only as good as the environment that is around you. You can only you're a product of your environment. If you are an eagle hanging out with chicken, you'll never fly. You'll always be thinking flight is lame. Flight is dangerous. I shouldn't do that. Yet you have that capacity to fly. So surround yourself with positivity. Change your environment. Change the things that are surrounding you. Cultivate a culture, an attitude where only positive thoughts are coming to you. So what I do, for example, for myself is, what am I listening to? What am I watching to? Who are my influencers? Who is influencing me on the inside? So that affects my output. So build, listen to motivational speakers, listen to a sermon, listen to good music, not just things that remember when I was growing up, loved gangster music. I still connect with some today. But, if you just listen to that stuff, it will polarize your brain. And you'll just be thinking at life from one end. You're thinking about crime and how you're about to be attacked. This is about to happen, and you're catastrophizing things and overemphasizing all the negative things that are about to happen. I remember someone who told me once, I went to visit them here in North Carolina, and they told me that they don't like going outside because they look at the news and they just fear there's going to be a nuclear warfare or something is going to happen. And I was like, well, live life, get outside the house, leave that TV, switch that TV off. I know we're using it right now, to broadcast this positive information, but choose the information you're getting. For example, subscribe to this channel. Shameless plug. All right. What are some of the ways that you have learned to overcome negative self-talk? I want to hear more about it, so please comment below or share with me. Check out my Instagram and let me know your thoughts. So today we've discussed the concept of self-talk, and we've said that self-talk is the ongoing internal dialogue that is within us, and this is happening all the time. There's 2 types. There's positive and there's negative self-talk. And then we've also looked at the benefits of both. Positive, negative. Positive contributes to our overall well-being. Negative is associated with stress, with an attack on our self-esteem and self-identity, associated with depression and a decline in our productivity and our ability to achieve our goals. And then we also looked at different types of negative self-talk, like personalizing, filtering, catastrophizing, and polarizing. And we looked at how those affect our mental well-being. We also looked at the connection between negative self-talk and self-esteem and goals, and how it affects us as visionaries, as vision bearers, as entrepreneurs and goal setters in achieving our goals. And that is not good for us because it's going to affect our ability to attain those goals. So finally, and we discussed the actionable steps that we need to take to foster positive internal dialogue. We looked at several ideas that we can do, for example, challenging negative self-talk, building awareness, using the 3-to-1 ratio, and surrounding ourselves with positivity, a positive vibe all around. I hope this presentation is good to you. I hope that you've learned something as I have learned, and that you will use this to dictate the kind of 2024 you will have. Let's have a positive 2024. Embrace positivity, bring it close to you, and see the impact and how this pulls you towards the right direction in terms of the things that you've always wanted to do and the goals that you have for yourself. So thank you so much for hanging out. If you're in this video to this long, I know that for sure you appreciate this content. So I appreciate you so much for hanging on and hanging out. And I will see you on the next one.